got a big question for you. I mean, just, you know, you obviously are hugely knowledgeable in this, maybe the best in the industry. How did this all come about for you?
You know,
what got you here today?
Yeah, you know, I grew up in the big city of San Francisco, yet I was a crazy fisherman. I love going fishing. Between trips my family would take to the Sierras, I caught some trout, little tiny guys on little Zebcos and little push button outfit. But by pure coincidence, I grew up near Golden Gate Park, and in the park is the world's finest casting and fishing club, arguably. It's called the Golden Gate Angling Casting Club, and I used to go there on my bicycle when I was a little guy, and I used to see these people out there fly casting. And one time on our fishing trip, I watched these fly fishermen catch all these fish, and I wasn't doing anything on my garden hackle. So I decided to go there and learn how to go fly cast, so on our next trip I'd be able to fly fish. I got introduced to somebody at the club, and they kind of said, well, you know, if you really want to get good at this, you need a little bit better outfit. I started off with an old bamboo beater with a wind-up fly reel and a silk line that was straight, no leader on the end, no taper in the line, and I was just wrecking that rod, hitting the rod on the concrete on the backswing and collapsing everything in the front. So they took mercy on me and said, hey kid, what you got to do is stop the rod here and then stop the rod there. The line whipped out, and it was amazing. It's just fun to do. So I got started at the casting club wanting to learn how to fly fish, and I got introduced to one of the club members that had just joined. The guy's name was Mel Krieger, and Mel is recognized arguably as one of the top teachers ever in the world of fly casting, and he was my very first serious teacher at the club. And he said, if you want to do well, you got to do a tournament. So I got started in tournament casting at age 9½, and my first tournament I was last place, dry fly accuracy, 10 casts, 10 targets up to 50 feet, and I tried and I was all right, but I was last place. So he said, that's it, I don't have to do that again. No, you got to do it again. So 2 weeks later I entered and I won the event. I beat out Mel, I beat out Phil Miravalli, I beat out all these great casters at the club, and that got me hooked, a 10-year-old kid. So then as time rolled on, I was interested in long distance casting, surf casting, bait casting, spinning, all the events that we have in tournament, and I wanted better equipment. So I was in touch with Jim Green. Jim Green at the time was the head rod designer at Fenwick Rods, and Fenwick had the best fiberglass rods in the world in my estimation and by the club standards. And I had been working with Jim on the fiberglass rods for the long distance double-handed fly. And along the way he said, hey Steve, we're working on some new material, and it's going to be a brand new category of rods, and I have rods that are being built out of something called graphite and another couple of rods being out of boron. I want you to come up to our factory. I want to have you try out these rods and give me your opinion. I had just recently won the national championships at age 15, so that was the year 1972, and I was flown up to Fenwick factory in Washington State on Bainbridge Island, and I actually cast and used graphite and boron rods in 1972, a year before they were introduced to the marketplace, based off of my tournament casting. So from that, I had a lot of fun working with Jim on what I want for tournament casting rods. I was the first person in the world to have a graphite tournament rod in 1972. The year later, 1973, it hit the market, and I was already fishing with rods before anybody else in the world. So I was very fortunate.
I mean, at the time, it was. And you was like, I've got the latest, greatest thing there is.
Absolutely incredible. This, it was a game changer. From fiberglass that goes like this, and then you go, and it just dampens and shoots a tight loop and more distance. I broke all the records. Everybody said unfair, and I said, well, you could have been up at the factory. I made available all those tournament blanks to anybody who wanted them through the American Casting Association. So all the designs that I had are the same designs you can get from ACA. But working with Jim, it was just an education process for me, and is where I got my design instruction from the very first day of graphite development. I've been around knowing what is the different kind of graphite you can get, what kind of epoxy you need, or what kind of resin system, usually an epoxy, but there's other things, and all these ingredients that go into rod design. So it was my need for higher performance tournament casting rods that gave me the introduction on designing any kind of a rod. Sure. And over over the years in this factory, we have more than 700 different models of rods, and I design all of them. Spinning, casting, fly, you name it, and that's what I do.
Amazing. And they are all excellent.